Welcome to the Reset Conference 2021. I hope you're all enjoying the wonderful sessions today. And thank you to the AA and the IPA and our dear friends at ISBAR for working with us all at MediaLink to bring this very special keynote CMO conversation to the programme. I'm Kathleen Saxton. I lead MediaLink for business across EMEA, and I'm a big believer in silver linings. And despite the pandemic, I think we have the great fortune of having a silver lining today, and that these virtual events mean that we have unprecedented access to incredible global talent such as Julia Goldin, who's the Chief Product and Marketing Officer for the Lego brand, who might usually be in flight or very busy in very many other meetings I'm sure she's going to be going on to next. But we're hugely grateful to have her presence at Reset 2021 today. Julia, welcome.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
It's a complete pleasure. So listen, we'd love to start if we can at the beginning. I know our time is short today, but clearly from Russia to America to Europe, you are much travelled and lived in many other spaces and places, of which I'm sure has been very enriching for you. But we love to start at the beginning, which was what was home like? What did mum and dad do? What did you initially choose to study?
Yeah. So I was born in St. Petersburg, like you said, and it was not Russia at that time, it was Soviet Union. So the first, sort of seminal years of my life were in a very, very different society, very different place, than the world that we know, the free world that we know today. And my parents are both engineers, but with a lot of love for culture and books and art. And I was, brought up, going to museums and ballets and concerts from a very young age. And actually, despite the fact that I was very good at school, I wanted to be a pianist. So that was my first focus. Yeah, I studied piano. There's actually a piano behind me because I still play. So I really wanted to be a pianist and maybe teach piano when I grew up. And then when we moved to the United States, I quickly realized that being a pianist is not such an attractive opportunity, and and there's also a lot more possible. So when I went to university, I still studied piano, but I also studied business and communications and kind of found my way into what I do today.
Wonderful. Tell us a bit about how you landed in this curious world of advertising, sort of communications and products, Julia. So tell us a little bit about the transition into the industry.
I think it goes back to actually the roots, which is that I always really appreciated creativity and art. And I think I am a very balanced right-left brainer, meaning that, I also really loved math and, really liked sciences. And, as I said, always really enjoyed pretty much everything in school except for gym. But, so when I was starting to look at what I wanted to do, this sort of cross section of art and science was really interesting for me. And for me, marketing and brand development and product development is exactly that. It's that cross section of art and science, because you have to combine really great commercial understanding and, a lot of discipline and insights and data. But there's got to be an element of creativity. There's got to be an element of envisioning things that don't exist today. And I always really loved that cross-section. So that's how I ended up really zeroing in on marketing. And it kind of went from there.
Understandably so. And again, as you say, from the engineering parents to the creativity of the culture and the pianist, I can see the sort of the arts and the science and the magic coming in as well. So now Coca-Cola and Revlon and Lego, and all very, very famous, wonderful, brilliant brands for you to work on and work with. What does it mean to you to be a leader in the marketing sector? What do you take of that? What responsibility do you feel that you hold with that?
That for me, and a lot of people ask me, like, why these three? There seem to be very random industries or very different industries. And I think what unites them is that these are really strong brands, and powerful brands have this is my belief, powerful brands have a real role to play in the world. They offer a lot of value to consumers, to our audiences, not just value through the products, but value through the brand and the brand message. So for me, as a marketer, I always felt that I was taking over something that was a legacy that I had the privilege to work with, to ensure that the brand continues to stay relevant and engaging in the time in which we live. And it also gave me a huge opportunity in every company to work with incredibly talented teams and very creative and interesting people. So that's kind of how my career choices have shaped up.
Of course. And we'll come on to your team and your leadership in just a second. So you talk about the legacy and the responsibility of the legacy of that brand. And clearly the Lego brand has been timeless, protected, wholesome. It just has so many different attributes to it. But we've really noticed, and actually someone in the audience today, Pete Markey, has sort of talked about this, the new business development side of things and the digitalization of this brand is something you've really led in your tenure there. The partnerships with Star Wars and Super Mario and Adidas, it's endless and wonderful. Tell me a little bit about what's the central alchemy that happens in your offices, in your teams, to even begin those partnerships.
I think that the first thing is that we are very focused on our audience, and we really listen to and understand, what's happening in the lives of children. So even 5-6 years ago, we already started to think about what 2020 might look like. Of course, nobody could ever imagine that 2020 would look exactly like it. But we did see the digitalization, for example, as a trend. We did see how kids play. We know that they really love fluid play that spans from digital to physical and it's a seamless world for them. But of course, when you're in the development phase, you have to be imagining what's happening 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So I think one thing is that we keep our eyes very much on the consumer. We listen, but we also project what will happen in the future. I think that's one big thing that's really important. The second thing is that we all really believe in the brand and we're super passionate about it. So, a lot of people always ask me, oh, are you afraid of digitalization? Is that going to kill the physical experience? I think it's up to us to make sure that the physical experience still stays relevant. And it's up to us to either see digitalization as an enemy or see it as a massive opportunity. We choose to see it as an opportunity. That unleashes a lot of creativity. And we are very open in allowing a lot of creativity and running a funnel of ideas early on so that we can have enough time to iterate and test and work in an agile method to actually get to what exactly we want to launch. And that's very much kind of how Super Mario, for example, came to life. And then there's another big side of it, which is that we're very passionate about the Lego brand. And we're very passionate about the role that it plays in people's lives. And we know that some of the partnerships and collaborations help us to marry this wonderful Lego experience, which is, gives a lot of people an opportunity to express themselves with actually being able to see it in a completely new light, in a completely new way. So, we're very deliberate about where we partner, but we also have found that partnerships are also a great way to bring more excitement and interest and engagement to our audiences. So that's kind of how everything is coming together. But there's more when you talk about alchemy. I think that's a really important word. These are all very good strategies, but how does it really work is the fact that I think there's two things that are really important. One is that everyone in our organization is extremely passionate and committed to the brand. You can ask any person of the 17,000 people that we employ, blue collar and white collar, what is the Lego Group mission? And they will know exactly what it is. And that it's not just words on paper, we really live it. And secondly, we work as one team, because it's so important to have diversity in your team. And in my organization, I'm very lucky that I have people that come from very different backgrounds, culturally, gender-wise, race-wise, but also experience-wise. I have engineers with very technical backgrounds coming together with creatives with very creative backgrounds, with people who've been in product development for a long time, with great marketers who've marketed amazing brands around the world. And all of these cultural and experience differences come together, and when people work as one team, they're able to really leverage the diversity to get to very good outcomes. And I think that's that's also one of the keys to the success that we have seen.
Absolutely so. And talking of that, so given the year that we've had, and your Rebuild the World obviously is much revered and awarded, and rightly so, felt sort of rather prescient given what actually then went on to happen. How was it for you personally and professionally to begin to realise, and how soon did you realise that we were entering something that was going to be monumental for the world?
We first had a first sort of sense of what it could be when it happened in China, because we have a very strong and thriving and growing brand in China, and an organization that we're very connected to. And we obviously saw what happened during the first stage of the pandemic when it was just happening in China. And, you know, when it came in March, I remember very distinctly, you know, we reacted very quickly. You know, it was maybe third week of March that we were together with the team. And our first priority was people safety, taking care of people, enabling them, supporting them. Because of course it was a very big change for people suddenly not to be able to go to work, to have kids at home, etc. And you have to relate to all of that because, you know, as a company, we also had manufacturing sites that were still open, and we needed to do everything possible to make sure that they were safe. We also started talking about what is happening in the world and what role we need to be playing for families out there. You know, the estimate now is that 80% of kids in 2020 have been in homeschooling environment. And we started seeing that very quickly. And so that's when we basically decided to launch Let's Build Together campaign, which was not commercially oriented at all. It had absolutely no commercial messages in it, but was just content that we started to put out through all of our owned and social channels to inspire people to build together, to inspire kids to build, to give play starters. And we generated about 200 ideas. All of them were generated by our own designers who just took the time and created videos at home. And, you know, and that campaign ended up being very popular. I mean, we're estimating that we reached over 80 million people. But we know through responses and what people have communicated back and how they've engaged that it was very helpful because it created something for people to do. And then that campaign evolved in things that we inspired people to do to be able to also connect to what was happening in the world. For example, building rainbows for frontline workers, you know, and engaging in other things as well that were relevant of the moment. So we reacted pretty quickly. And the other thing that we also did as a company is that we felt that it was very important for us to protect all of the, you know, innovation that we plan to go into the market. Because another thing, of course, is that we felt that people needed us. They wanted Lego products. They wanted to have more products available. They wanted to have more entertainment for families and for kids and adults who actually also started to become a lot more active, finding moments of their own, you know, focus, joyful focus and relaxation through Lego. So we wanted to make sure that we could keep the pipeline going to launch all of the products that we planned to launch. And so that required also a lot of changes, both to how we were introducing the products, where we were marketing them, where we were selling them. So there was quite a lot of reaction that happened very quickly and in a very agile way to ensure that we were able to, you know, address the challenges that were coming our way and still be there for our audiences.
Tell me, given, you know, in order for our people to succeed, and clearly you have a huge team that report up and through you, for them to be happy and motivated, what's the thing that you have felt you've been able to do that has most helped your team to stay focused and happy during this difficult time?
I think there are several things. I mean, one thing is that we believe that children are role models, and part of that is that we want to give opportunities for our own people to see the world through the eyes of children. So we have things like Play Day, for example, that we do every year, and we did, rather than doing a play day, we actually did a play week. It was virtual, but we had over 6,000 people, including some of our partners, participating. That was really important, just to give people an opportunity to just enjoy themselves and have those moments of play during their day. I think the other big thing, of course, is about communication. And I've been very connected, as well as many of our leaders, you know, talking to people more frequently than what we usually would do, and talking about resilience and drawing inspiration internally as well. I mean, we have wonderful people in our organization, and we learn a lot from each other. But we have, for example, a wonderful gentleman called Morton Bond. He's legally blind, and he's an art director in in our agency. He's written a book about his experience and how he overcame his handicap and found a way to see the world in a different way. And these messages were extremely relevant for people, all of whom were finding themselves in difficult situations. So it's also allowing for this kind of inspiration to also be shared. And I have personally, shared with people and have always been very open about the fact that in these moments, in these times, it's really important to restore yourself. It's very important to be resilient. Is not just about pushing through all the difficulties. It's also about allowing yourself time off to just restore yourself and replenish your energy. So it's also sort of giving people these messages so that they feel the permission, let's say, and the support to do it. But that is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely so. Understood. And I think everyone's trying to find their own ways of doing that, aren't they, too? Now, clearly advertising and that side of your work is notoriously a very collaborative process. So how have you managed to do that with your own internal creative teams and your outside partners to try and make sure that you can be as collaborative as possible when you literally can't be together at the moment?
I think this is where digital technology has helped us a lot to stay connected. And I have been really impressed. We've enabled all of our people to work online, if they needed equipment or something else. But, I think we've been really helped by Teams and Zoom and, other platforms that, have, I think improved significantly over the last year to enable people to work together and to work remotely. I think that's one ingredient. And the second ingredient that helped us a lot is the fact that the one team mantra didn't come to play in March of 2020. It's something that we have been very much on for a long time. And that really enabled people to continue working together, even if they're not, physically in the same place. And we actually have that happening a lot because we collaborate across the world. So, we have people in Denmark who work with people in London, who work with people in China. So we can't always be in the same place. So I think I actually feel that our organization has made that transition very seamlessly.
So Julia, it's now January, and as we look to the year ahead, tell me a little bit about your thoughts and your fears and your hopes. Again, professionally, personally, we start afresh. I know some things haven't moved on. I know in London we're now in an absolute lockdown as we speak at the moment. But tell me a little bit about what you're hoping will happen.
So, one big hope I have is for a vaccine to kick in globally. I think that at the end of the day, safety and health of everyone, is really, really important. Of course, for me personally, in my family, but for all of my colleagues, for all of my friends, for the world. So I hope that the world will come back to, normalcy, if you could say that. So that's probably the number one hope that I have.
Yeah, understand.
And when we come back, when we do come together, the world will be a kinder and more humane and better place. And I certainly hope and plan on the fact that, some of the things that have happened in 2020 taught us big lessons, and that we will continue on the journey to ensure that the world is a more inclusive place and embraces and respects and supports diversity much more than ever in the past.
I hope that's changed forever. I completely agree with you. We've moved at some pace on that, which we needed to, but let's hope we can sustain. Is there anything that you would be enthusiastic to let go of, that you'll be glad to not have to go back to?
Well, I could definitely stand reducing the digital time online. I wish I could replace a lot of this video stuff with being able to be with people.
Of course, absolutely. So I understand that very much. So clearly there's lots of marketeers, there's lots of other, fellow marketeers, there's lots of media owners, lots of agencies, etc. in the audience today, and politicians and people that are legislating, etc. How can you encourage us all to reset? This conference is all about resetting. Can you give us any hints or clues as to how you go around doing that, or any advice you may have for us in thinking about resetting for this year ahead?
I think that the fact that the year is starting almost kind of where we left it before, or maybe even worse with a lot of these lockdowns, I do think that maybe sometimes sucks your energy a bit. And I think resetting and finding that personal energy and resilience is something that every individual should be, needs to go through. It's an individual thing. But, I have, I don't have any great wisdoms other than what I'm experiencing as a human being. But, for me personally, I'm very much focused on the future, because the world will move on and the future is bright. The future is where we can make a lot of change happen, and we need to, because we are the people that have so much influence, on so many different things. So I'm focusing on those things that I really want to see change, that I want to see changed for the better. I'm focusing on children, on diversity, making sure that all kids grow up believing that they can do anything, boys and girls and kids of different colors and different cultural backgrounds, and that there is no distinction, for them, that society doesn't teach them early on, as we have done in the past, that because that they're limited in something, and I certainly would like to play that role for sure, as much as possible on behalf of the LEGO Group. I believe that the world needs to become a kinder and more embracing place. I think we have a lot of opportunity to do that. I think it needs to be a safer place, and again, like I'll speak about kids, digital child safety is so important. We're doing a lot of work to educate children and parents, help parents to educate children about digital child safety, but there's not enough awareness. So there's politicians in the room. There's a lot of stuff that we can do to make the world a better place. So a lot of the reset is focusing on that. And then, a lot of people have asked me before Christmas, before the holidays, in my team, well, what should we read? What business books should we read, etc. And I told them to read The Little Prince, because we are so we can get so into what is happening in the world of strategy and business and this and that. And of course, it's all very important, but sometimes you really just have to take a step back and be a human being. And The Little Prince, he said that the most beautiful things in the world are not the ones that you can see or touch, or the ones that you can feel with your heart. So I think a big part of resetting is just remembering that is the biggest gift we give to each other, is the gift of love and support and feeling included and feeling appreciated and feeling respected. So that has been one big part of a reset for me.
What a wonderful way to round this up, but also to consider, and again, it comes back, as you were talking then, Julia, it made me think back to your pianist roots in the sense of feeling something and living with something. But I also hear very loud your willingness to take responsibility as best as you can for what you can do about all of these things that you're trying to tackle on the diversity front, as you said, child safety, etc., which I know is a great topic for today as well within the audience here. So wonderful to hear a leader who is willing to do her part in whatever way she can, which is wonderful. Tell me one last thing. What is it you've always known about yourself, Julia, that has helped power you through the career, these challenges of the pandemic, or even taking on this responsibility? What do you secretly know about yourself spiritually that keeps you the woman that you are?
I'm an immigrant. I grew up feeling deprived. I grew up in the Soviet Union. I was so in love with what I was reading. I read a lot when I was little, and I was, dreaming of all these wonderful places around the world and feeling that I would never be able to go there. And I'm also Jewish, and I thought that I wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and I was told because I was Jewish, I would be limited in the opportunities that I would receive. So when I came to the United States, when we immigrated, the whole world opened up, and we were very poor. I was starting from scratch. I didn't speak any English, but I had this thing in me already that now that I had the opportunity to experience all these different things, I wasn't going to give up. And I think that's the immigrant mentality, that you go into virtual unknown and you don't just survive, you thrive in the unknown, and doing it over and over again. So that's what I know about myself, that you know, I'm able to get into situations that are very new for me, very different. That's why I was never afraid to switch industries. I was not afraid to go from living in the US to living in Europe to living in Japan and then back to New York, because I always felt that there's something in me, you know, this kind of ability to thrive in the unknown and focus on the, you know, on getting those things that I really wanted. So I know what it's like not to have, and I think when you know what it's like not to have, then you really appreciate when you have an opportunity to actually experience something.
Of course, the understanding of deprivation. What a wonderful way of explaining it, and I can completely understand that too. Okay, so what I take from that in this reset then is about experimentation and experiencing and bravery and letting go of the stuff that we know and maybe trying things that we don't know. I think we have to, right, in this new world, we have to experiment in that way. So a wonderful way to think about dreaming and imagining and building, which I know the Lego brand does so beautifully well as well. So thank you for that. You have an enviable role, Julia, but you do it so utterly supremely. So we're lucky to spend time with you. Appreciate you making the time. I wish you great success and happiness and wonderful music around your life in the year ahead. We'll be watching very intently what you're going to do, but best of luck for that, and thank you again.
Thank you very much.